The Arctic is one of the harshest places on Earth. There are no trees here, no cities, only endless ice, strong winds, and a cold that penetrates to the very bones. On that day, a team of researchers and animal rescuers was moving across the icy plain in a small all-terrain vehicle. They were conducting a routine expedition, observing animals, checking the condition of the ice, and recording climate data. Inside the vehicle it was quiet. Only the wind beat against the metal body and the wheels creaked over the snow. Suddenly the driver braked sharply. "Wait! Do you see that?" he said. Everyone looked ahead. On the horizon a large white figure was moving. At first no one understood what was happening. But as they got closer it became clear. It was a polar bear. And it was moving very strangely. The bear was walking slowly, limping heavily. Sometimes it stopped, as if it was difficult even to stand. "Something is definitely wrong with it," one of the biologists said. The team stopped the vehicle and began watching through binoculars. Now they saw the wound. There was a large injury on the bear's side. The fur around it was dirty and tangled. The wound looked old and infected. "This is bad," the veterinarian said quietly. "Very bad. If the infection spread, the animal could die. But helping a polar bear is extremely dangerous. It is one of the most powerful predators on the planet. Even wounded, it could easily flip a vehicle or attack." The team discussed what to do for a while. They could leave, but no one wanted to leave the animal in that condition. "If we don't try to help, it will die," the veterinarian said. After a short discussion, everyone agreed. They began to prepare. The veterinarian took out special equipment and a tranquilizer designed for large animals. It was the only safe way to get close. The bear was still slowly walking across the ice. When the distance became close enough, the veterinarian carefully fired a dart from a special tranquilizer gun. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the bear stopped. It swayed and slowly collapsed onto the snow. The team waited several minutes to make sure it was safe. "Time to go," the veterinarian said. They approached carefully. When they reached the bear, everyone fell silent for a moment. The polar bear was enormous. Even lying on the snow, it looked like a true giant. Its thick fur was covered with frost, and its breathing slowly released clouds of steam into the cold air. The veterinarian examined the wound. "The infection is serious," he said. "We need to clean it immediately." The work began. The rescuers carefully cleared the fur around the injury. Then the veterinarian began gently treating the wound. Inside the wound were insect larvae, a sign of severe infection. They carefully removed them and cleaned the damaged tissue. It was a long and very careful process. Every person on the team had a task. One monitored the bear's breathing. Another prepared the medicine. A third handled the equipment. The cold wind continued to blow, but no one paid attention to it. They were focused on only one thing: saving the life of this animal. After a long time, the wound was finally cleaned. The veterinarian treated it with antiseptic and injected medication to help stop the infection. Then they applied a special healing treatment. When everything was finished, the team slowly stepped back. Now all they could do was wait. After some time, the bear began to wake up. First it moved a paw. Then it lifted its head. It looked a little confused. Slowly, very slowly, it rose onto its paws. The team stood at a distance watching. The bear took a step, then another. Now it moved more confidently. It stopped and looked toward the people. At that moment, a strange silence appeared between the humans and the wild animal. No one moved, as if the bear was trying to understand who these people were and what they had done. After a few seconds, it turned and walked toward the icy plain. Step by step, it moved farther away. At first, they could see its massive figure, then only a white shape, and then it disappeared into the endless snow. The team stood silently for a long time. "I hope it survives," one of the rescuers said. The veterinarian nodded. "Now it has a chance. Sometimes the only thing humans can do is help nature and give it the chance to continue its path." And on that day, among the cold winds of the Arctic, one polar bear received a second chance at life. Snow was falling quietly onto the icy plain. The Arctic once again sank into a cold silence. The rescue team was already packing their equipment. The helicopter was supposed to arrive in a few hours, but Daniil was still standing at the edge of the ice, looking toward the place where the polar bear had disappeared. "Are you still thinking about him?" asked Marina, one of the team's biologists. Daniil nodded. "Yes, I keep wondering if he will survive." Marina looked at the tracks in the snow. Huge footprints slowly disappeared toward the icy hills. "He's strong," she said, "and now he has a chance." Alexei came out of the tent holding a tablet with notes. "I checked the data. If the infection doesn't return, the wound should heal." "But he's alone," Daniil said quietly. Alexei looked out across the white desert. "He has always been alone. This is his world." Several hours passed. Finally, the helicopter appeared on the horizon. Its rotors loudly cut through the cold air. The team climbed aboard. As the helicopter began to rise, Daniil looked down one last time. The white Arctic looked endless. But suddenly he noticed movement. "Wait!" he shouted. The pilot lowered the altitude slightly, and then everyone saw it. On one of the icy hills stood the same bear, a huge white silhouette against the gray sky. He stood motionless, looking toward the helicopter. No one said a word. Even the pilot slowed the aircraft. The bear took a few steps forward, then stopped, and simply watched. "Did he come back?" Marina whispered. Alexei slowly shook his head. "No. He's watching us." Daniil felt goosebumps run down his skin. For a moment, it seemed to him that there was something more in the animal's eyes than the gaze of a wild creature. It felt like understanding. The helicopter began to rise higher. The bear was still standing on the ice. Then he turned, and once again disappeared among the endless icy plains. Several months passed. Spring slowly began to arrive even in the harsh Arctic. The ice started to crack, and the cold ocean water appeared between the drifting floes. During that time, the research team returned to the same area. They were studying polar bear migration. Marina was reviewing drone footage. Suddenly she stopped. "Alexei, come look at this." He looked at the screen. In the video, there was a polar bear, big, strong. It walked calmly across the ice. But on its side, there was a long-healed scar, the same wound. Daniil, who was standing nearby, froze. "That's him?" In the video, the bear walked to the edge of the ice where two small cubs were playing. They jumped around him and tried to climb onto his back. The bear calmly lay beside them, watching. Marina smiled. So, he didn't just survive. He became a father. Daniil stared at the screen for a long time. He remembered that cold day, blood on the snow, fear, and the moment when the massive animal stood up and walked away. Alexei said quietly, "Sometimes one action can change an entire life." Daniil nodded, but deep inside he understood something else. Sometimes one action can change not only the life of one animal, sometimes it can change an entire future. Two small cubs were playing on the ice, and beside them lay a strong polar bear, the same one who had once been given a second chance. Another year passed. The Arctic once again sank into the long polar night. Strong winds pushed snow across the endless icy plains. The world here was harsh and cold, but life still continued. Daniil often remembered that day. Sometimes it felt like it had all been a dream. A huge wounded polar bear, blood on the snow, worms inside the wound, and that look he would never forget. But one day something unexpected happened. The research station received a signal from an automatic camera placed not far from the place where they had once saved the bear. Marina opened the recording. At first the screen showed only the movement of snow. Then a huge white figure appeared. "Wait," she said quietly. Everyone came closer. It was him, the same polar bear. Now he looked even stronger and bigger. His fur was thick and clean, and on his side there was a long scar, a reminder of that terrible day. But beside him walked two grown cubs. They were no longer small. They walked confidently next to their father. At one moment the bear stopped. He lifted his head and looked directly toward the camera, as if he knew someone was watching him. For a few seconds everything froze. No one in the room said a word. Daniil felt his heart beating faster. "He remembers," he whispered quietly. Marina smiled. "Maybe." In the video, the cubs began to play with each other, rolling in the snow and pushing each other with their paws. The bear calmly watched them. Then suddenly he took a few steps forward, straight toward the camera. He stopped very close. His huge eyes looked directly into the lens. 1 second, 2 seconds. Then something amazing happened. The bear slowly lowered his head, as if in a sign of gratitude. After that he turned around, and together with his cubs he slowly walked into the endless white wilderness. The camera kept recording their distant silhouettes for a long time, until they completely disappeared behind the snowy hills. Daniil sat silently for a long time. Then he quietly said, "Sometimes people think that one action changes nothing." Marina looked at the screen where the last frame had stopped, the polar bear and two cubs against the endless ice. But sometimes one small act of kindness can change an entire story. The story of one life, the story of one family, and maybe even the story of an entire species. Outside the window, the snow was falling again. And somewhere far away in the Arctic, a huge polar bear was walking across the ice with his cubs. And now he had a life that people had once saved.